Hey, Rick, how you doing, man?
Hey, Dennis. Good to see you.
Another day in paradise.
Another beautiful day in Florida, yes.
In Ocala, Florida. And boy, do we have a strange matchup today, don't we?
Well, I mean, these are 40-year-old cars almost. This is the epitome of American luxury in the mid-1980s, and these happen to be the personal daily drivers from back in that era of my dad and his longtime partner, Sally.
Which is just amazing because we always come down here because you guys have so many interesting cars. They're all low mileage, most of them low mileage, unrestored originals, like, 4,000 miles is a lot of miles on your cars.
Right.
These babies are both rocking 80,000 plus miles.
Yes.
And they both still look great.
Dad and Sally have always been gentle with their vehicles, as we are going to see today.
Indeed. We have an 84 Lincoln Continental Mark 7, first year for it, and we have an 85 Cadillac Seville, last year for it, Gen 2 Seville.
Yes, correct.
I've always loved these so much that I've had two of them and still have one of them as a daily driver because I think they are so cool. So let's start on this baby. It came out in 84, and this is like the first year for it.
Yes.
This thing looked like nothing else when it came out.
It looked like a spaceship. It was so modern and sleek and aerodynamic. This was really when Ford was going all in on aerodynamics and European-inspired styling. So this was a total turnaround for the Mark Series Lincoln that were just big, huge Luxo barges in the 70s, and now all of a sudden it's a more compact, aerodynamic, fast and slick-looking European-styled personal luxury car with the Aero European headlights.
Right.
And I just remember when these first debuted in the car magazines and when I was younger and just going, wow, holy cow, And evidently my dad did the same thing because he was pretty quick to get one on order and
so he
make
bought
it
it brand new.
He ordered it brand new.
You've known this since you were a younger lad.
I've known it since that was when I was 16 years old, yes.
So you had to, as a 16-year-old, it still was like, wow, this is like nothing I've ever seen. And it had so many innovative features that were firsts. I mean, it's the first 4-channel electronic ABS on any American production car, even before the Corvette. I think they beat it by 6 months or something. Airbag, computer-controlled airbag suspension.
Computer-controlled airbag suspension.
The keypad entry. Now that's throughout the entire Lincoln line and everything.
And it's got an onboard computer of sorts. A primitive, there's buttons there you can punch and it gives you different information.
Does things.
Hopefully, yes.
Well, and the color, gold, you don't see many of them. This was also a Bill Blass. Now, your dad special ordered this car, is that right?
Yeah, it's a Bill Blass edition. Dad special ordered it. He knew that he wanted the Bill Blass. What he was up in the air about until he test drove one at our local Lincoln Mercury dealership, Var Lincoln Mercury in Gainesville, Florida. Var by the way, was very instrumental in helping my dad get into business and start National Parts Depot. He's the guy who actually gave Dad his first wholesale account for buying Ford parts.
That's great.
So it was Var who we ordered the car through. He test drove one, and it was the 5-liter V8. Which in 1984 was only good for 140 horsepower.
It was very detuned in 84.
So Dad wound up ordering, and this is where this car gets really strange and really rare, really fast. This is not a 5-liter. It is a turbo diesel, a 2.4-liter BMW-sourced turbo diesel. Inline 6. And of course, the first thing I asked Dad, and the first thing everybody is probably wondering right now, why would he order a turbo diesel? Is because Dad said that the V8 was such a dog. How could the turbo diesel be any worse?
How much worse could it be?
He's like, I'm going to go for it. Plus, back then, he was needing and wanting the car because we had recently just opened our branch in California. Even more recently, just opened our branch in Michigan.
So he had a lot of road work to do.
He was doing a lot of traveling. It's not like he was flying back and forth to his stores. He was driving, and this was the car that he did it
cross country.
And this friggin' BMW engine gave him phenomenal fuel mileage. Going across Texas, he would tell me 78 miles per hour, cruise control set, hit the button on the trip computer, 42, 43 miles per gallon is what this thing would average, just slipping through the wind aerodynamically. So
well, that was a 1-year only option, and I didn't even know it existed. And when I first saw this car in your collection, it's really great, 5.0 Mustang engine.
It turned out to be very unpopular. And my dad, to this day, loved this car. And it was the perfect tool for the job. It was fantastic gas mileage in a luxury
But they didn't make many with the turbo
car.
diesel, right?
No, they only made a little over 2,300 of the Mark 7s and another 1,300 of the four-door Continentals.
Oh, they're actually diesel Continentals,
yes,
too.
Yes. So
not many.
So today, considering, you know, a whole lot of people probably, you know, gave up on these cars, I don't think there's a whole lot of running, driving turbo diesels, Mark 7s left out there.
Well, it's the only one I've ever seen.
As we are soon to find out, this one runs and drives absolutely beautifully.
Well, here's the other thing about this car. This is a Lincoln Continental Mark 7.
Yes.
Which is very confusing because in the same year there's a Lincoln Continental.
Yes.
So they were still hanging on to Continental almost as a division. And okay, there's the Marks, but after this year they dropped the Continental. These are just Mark 7s.
Ever since the Continental Mark II and the Continental division in 56 and 57, ever since they closed down the Continental division,
they couldn't let it go.
The marketers have not figured out what the heck to do with the Continental name since then. They flip-flop, they use it, they don't use it, they use it, they don't use it. It's not even worth arguing over anymore. It's just whatever it is, it is.
But it's gone after this. This is still a Lincoln Continental Mark 7.
Yes.
But mine, my 91, is just a Mark 7. So Lincoln Mark 7. You know, again, special ordered. He special ordered everything.
Yes. I think it's got every option you could throw onto one.
And it's a Bill Blast,
yeah,
right?
It was a retail window sticker on this car was just a sliver shy of $30,000 in 1984.
Oh, man, that's a lot of money.
That was, of course, Dad, it was Valhalla Lincoln Mercury, his good friend, so he got a good deal on it. But this was not a cheap car. This is another few $1,000s more expensive than the Cadillac Seville that we've also got.
Well,
here.
and you were talking about the computer, what they called the trip minder there, which does all sorts of stuff. Digital dash, that was the other thing that they.
And a very modern looking interior.
It is. It really
for
is.
that day, the exterior styling and the interior of this styling was like you were in a spaceship. You thought you were 20, 30 years into the future with this car. And
it's not your typical dash all the way over, stuff underneath it. It's, it's very modular.
It's got this kind of floating pod that's sticking out there from a more recessed and subdued dash on the side, which actually got kind of picked up after they restyled the Mark 7 interiors to look a little bit different. This kind of layout is what they used for the Mustangs in 1987 going forward.
Well, they all had that leather-covered T-handle shifter, which just feels great. Oh my gosh, it feels great. Armrest is in a perfect place. I mean, like I say, I have one of these, and I'll never get rid of it because I just love driving it. They're just so cool. And he special ordered this. Is that right?
Yes.
And there's a story behind that.
There is a story behind it. One of my dad's best friends, Roger. I won't give the last name so that because I don't know what the statute of limitations is. He worked for Ford. He worked with the computer systems at Ford. Roger had the ability back then, which shortly thereafter, Ford and all the manufacturers went to this just-in-time thing to where you couldn't fool around with cars once they were put into the system to be manufactured. What Roger was able to do was Dad ordered this car, let's say, on a Monday.
Okay.
The following day, once the dealer had submitted the order, Ford gave the dealership back the VIN number, meaning they had entered it into the system.
It shall be built.
It shall be built, and it is in queue to be built whenever they got around to it. So my dad gives Roger a call on the phone, gives him the VIN number, and literally within hours of that phone call, this car is getting welded and bucked up on the assembly line. And literally within a week, it was being backed off the truck in Florida for my dad to pick up.
Now
talk about turnaround time.
That's knowing somebody.
Yeah, that kind of stuff. I don't even care if you're Bill Ford Jr.
You don't usually get that.
You can't get that done anymore.
That's just it's hilarious too. Well, true to its Continental heritage, it's got this.
Yes, it's still got
the bump.
They never got rid of that bump.
And here's the script. Because mine doesn't have that. Mine just says Mark 7. This is a Continental Mark 7.
Yes.
And it says down there, turbo diesel.
Turbo diesel.
Which that's another script you just don't see.
And
of course this.
That's for the Bill Blast.
Bill Blast.
Yes.
80,000 miles though. I just can't believe the condition. Well, it's crazy, but the most crazy thing about this is the engine. So let's open it up and look at this turbo diesel. Yeah, now I have never seen anything like that under the hood of a Mark 7. Never in my entire life.
State-of-the-art German technology.
Even though, and it's a BMW engine, right?
Yes, it's a BMW engine.
But it's stamped Ford. They at least branded it turbo diesel.
Yes, and this is a very, very common engine used. I was told many, many years ago that if you ever traveled to Western Europe, pretty much every taxi cab in Western Europe was a 5 Series 4-door BMW with this same
turbo diesel.
with this same 2.4 turbo diesel.
So you can still get parts for this engine.
Yes,
like,
these were as
shelf,
common in Europe. These engines were as common as Europe as small block Chevys are here in America. So and the parts are just as cheap. So as far as internal engine parts, there's no problem with doing a rebuild on one of these turbo diesels.
So inline 6. And it sits at an angle, it's kind of a slant 6, and because of that, they're able to keep the turbo down low,
right?
And there's no bulge in the hood or anything. And, you can't tell the difference between this and the 5.0.
The horsepower rating, as diesels are never high on horsepower, 115 horsepower, 155 pound-feet of torque, and these are all low numbers, but I think when you drive, you find that it moves the car along just great.
Well, and I bet once you get it up to speed, it's just an incredible...
Once it's up to speed, it's an overdrive, it's a diesel, so the torque is just quietly moving the car along, and yeah.
God, it looks weird. I mean, that just looks...
It works, you know, and it was a dead nuts reliable car for my dad, too. It's not as if he was having all sorts of problems because of it being a very limited production. They only built these for about 5 months before Ford pulled the plug.
So that we aren't doing this anymore.
Yeah, we're just not
and
getting enough orders.
Never did warm up to diesel. They just never did. And I know.
And on top of that, because I'm sure you know this is a very European-styled car, and Ford, I mean Lincoln and Cadillac have always been trying to get that European market. You know, the people who like the German cars. So
they'll buy these if we do this.
Yeah,
right?
if we put a BMW engine in the Mark 7, we'll get all these crossover customers.
Didn't work.
It just never works
Didn't
out
work
that
at all.
way. Yeah. It's surprising how much high-end feel Lincoln engineered into this Fox chassis that also underpinned Fairmonts and Mustangs.
Well, enough talk. Let's take this baby out. I want to see what a diesel Mark 7 runs like. Close that thing up.
All right.
Diesel power.
There you go.
What I love about these cars, though, is the ride. You know, this airbag suspension, but it's not wallowy. It's amazingly tight in the corners.
Yes.
And it's like a cloud, but it's not. It's billowy, but it's not wallowy. I don't know how to describe it, but it's just a magnificent ride.
It is, and what's most impressive about it is that we're sitting on a lengthened Fox platform.
I know, that was really
that the Fairmont and the Mustang used, and if you drive a Mustang or a Fairmont of the same era, boy, you can't say that about the ride.
Yeah, and it is amazing because this was really the platform that Ford used through the whole line.
Yes.
I mean, Thunderbird, Cougars, the Continental, and the Continental Mark 7.
Exactly, and it's not as though we've done some extensive rebuilding and reworking of this car after the 80,000 miles. It's essentially the same car that Dad bought new in 1984, just with the normal maintenance and upkeep, and it still drives just as nice and tight as it did when it was brand new. You're getting mileage like a VW Golf Rabbit diesel, you know, which were kind of the mileage kings back in the day. You're getting similar mileage to a VW Rabbit,
but with real style.
But with real style and luxury and I'm sure the aerodynamics also played a big part in that. You know, everything else on the road, that especially American-made stuff, were still square boxes.
Yep.
And then you got this thing slipping through the wind.
You almost forget it's a diesel at times. And it's so weird that it's a diesel.
Very smooth. It's not like you feel that graininess through the steering wheel or through the gas pedal. It's just as smooth. If you couldn't barely hear the diesel, it's almost like it's an electric car.
Yeah. These were definitely banker's hot rods. because that 5.0 actually...
It got more and more powerful, just like the Mustang got quicker and quicker, as did the Lincolns, to the point where they were getting the same 225 horse fuel-injected 5-liter in 1987 that the Mustang got. So that and the LSC, that was a banker's hot rod.
It really was, and you can granny the thing around, and it's nice and docile and everything. But you get into that gas pedal, you can smoke those tires.
And my '88 LSC that I have in the collection, the original owner of that, for whatever reason, because he never drove it, it's only got 500 or 600 original miles on it.
That is amazing.
But when it was brand new, he had the dealership install the entire Ford Motorsports GT40 engine package on it.
Oh my gosh.
So it's got the GT40 intake and cylinder heads, and he had the rear end switched out to a 373 rear gear ratio.
It's just a stunning interior.
It's a pretty car because it's that gray metallic with the gray interior.
I didn't realize it was so juiced.
Yeah, the guy had it done when it was brand new.
Wow.
And only drove it several hundred miles, and then I bought it from the son after the gentleman had passed away.
Here again, I'm looking at 80,000 miles on this, which is so atypical for you guys. I mean, usually that's an extra digit. Usually it's 8,000 miles.
My dad is so gentle on interiors.
It's amazingly clean.
Yeah, it's like, how do you do that, Dad? Do you secretly, when I'm not around, wear gloves and put on the hospital booties over your shoes?
Wow. Well, this is amazing. This was the first year for the Mark 7. Now, the Caddy is the last year for that body style Seville.
It's the last year for that body style Seville.
Well, let's go play with that. What do you say?
Let's do it.
I love Mark 7s. That's why I still have one. That rides just like mine. It's a magnificent ride, but it sure is a different sound with that diesel than the 5.0 Mustang.
It's a unique experience.
It is a unique. And speaking of unique, this 85 Caddy Seville is a very unique styling exercise.
It was a daring styling exercise. I mean, Sally worked for Chrysler, helping to design their corporate offices.
Oh, okay.
And so I can't remember as to why she happened to be in a GM styling studio, but she was one day, and it was in the late 70s, when they had styling drawings of this first conceptualized up on the wall, and she fell in love. She just absolutely fell in love.
This is gorgeous.
She just pointed at it and told whoever I've got to have that car someday. So, so she really always loved these cars, and it was in 1988 when
you finally got one.
Dad finally found one that was, I think, was down in the Tampa area. It was a very low mileage, beautifully cared for trade-in at a Cadillac dealership, and Dad went down and got it.
This was, I've been told this was like one of the last designs to come out of Bill Mitchell, basically. And I've heard it referred to as neoclassic. Okay, that's a good way to put it. Bustle trunk, harkening back to the 30s or, probably 30s, and some of the great Euro styles, this kind of integrating the trunk into the body, but nothing looked like this. And I like it just for the risks they took.
Yes.
Because it certainly was different. And this, when I first, in your collection, I saw, black Seville. It's not actually black.
It's a very dark charcoal metallic. It's a gorgeous color, I think.
Yeah.
And that with a slightly lighter gray leather interior, it's a very elegant car just with the colors alone. And originally it had a smooth, it was all painted roof, but Sally's vision of what she always wanted included a carriage roof. There's several different names that they have for it. That was a factory option. You could the faux convertible look.
Caddy called it was a cabriolet roof, but it's a fake convertible.
So literally the day that Dad bought it, soon thereafter he bought the GM kit and gave it to Larry, who takes care of our collection. He installed the roof for Sally, and her vision was finally realized. Before I knew what these were, I was kind of like, wow, Seville made a convertible? No, they didn't. They make one that kind of looks like a convertible. You're sporting some badges up here too, so this thing's won some AACA awards. Yes, the car has always been in pristine condition. Sally took beautiful care of it, but a lot of people watching this are going to remember back in the 80s when GM had huge warranty issues with their factory paint jobs that were literally cracking and crazing and hazing and falling off the cars.
Yep.
This car was not immune to that. The paint wasn't falling off of it, but it was all crazed on the hood and on the deck lid. And so the car deserved a repaint to fix that, because the rest of the car was like brand new. So we went ahead and disassembled it right there in our shop, took all the bumpers and the trim and everything else to where we could just give it to our paint guy and have the paint job
I know
done.
where this is going.
And once all that was taken apart, then other things came apart. And then we get it back and, well, we should clean up that engine compartment a little bit. Next thing you know, the engine's out. We wound up just doing almost a full nut and bolt restoration of the entire car. The entire undercarriage is detailed and restored. So yeah, once we were done with it, it was like,
really
wow,
nice.
why waste a good restoration? So we took it through the whole entire AACA schedule, which really, Sally got a huge kick out of that.
Oh,
you know,
I bet.
her past daily driver now winning awards in
So junior?
It got its national first junior, then its national first senior, and then we took it to the grand national meet, and it got its grand national first place, which is as high as you can go.
So this is probably the most decorated Seville.
It's probably the most decorated Seville out there, yeah.
Man, oh man.
That's all the original chrome. Like I said, the car was like brand new. It just had that GM, issue warranty recall paint on it.
Well, you know, and from the front, it's a Caddy.
Yes.
It's like almost any other Caddy of the era. It's a Caddy.
From the rear, it's very Packard and Rolls Royce.
It is. Yes. It's like, what is this thing? And I think that was what a lot of people really did say. It was like, what is this? But it's a neoclassic. It's a throwback design, but it screams luxury for sure. And as does the interior. It's pillowy, buttoned.
Yeah, this is
leather.
all the leather, the carpeting, the rugs, the mats. It's all the original stuff. You know, it's like Sally was jumping into a hazmat suit every time she got in the car to drive, or
it's driven by ghosts.
Driven by ghosts, because it just doesn't have a mark on it. It's like a brand new car. And so we didn't have to do anything with this. We took the interior off when it was painted, just so that nothing got overspray on it. But we just put it right back in.
You just cleaned it up, put it back. That glove box is the biggest slab of
plastic wood
that I've ever seen in a dash. It's just huge.
In the 70s and 80s, man, that plastic wood did the trick.
It did. It kind of tipped the balance, didn't it?
Yes.
But man, it does look inviting, and it looks cushy, and even the back, you've got that. You do have that sort of chauffeured feel in the back.
Oh, it's a super comfortable car. Yeah.
Man, oh man. But again, the whole thing about this car is this. The bustle trunk.
Yes, this is all the drama.
And it was really controversial and remains so to a certain extent, but that didn't stop both Lincoln and Chrysler from copying it a couple years later. They both did a bustle trunk. Neither of them did it as well.
Right.
This one, you know, if a bustle trunk's going to work, this is the one it works on.
Right. Yeah.
Even the lenses and everything. I mean, it's hard to believe this has got 79 or 80,000 miles on it.
It's in good shape, and it still drives, just like it did when we first bought it. It's just been a great car, another good, reliable car that really hasn't needed anything much in the way of rebuilding or repair.
Let's go look at that HT 4100 under the hood.
Let's go.
Digital fuel injection. HT 4100 V8.
Yes, but I did like the black fin valve covers, because if you've ever seen an old Cadillac V16, that's the classic 30s V16 Cadillacs had that same styling treatment.
A nod to that too.
I believe it is.
That's interesting.
I'll go out on a limb and say yes.
Say it with authority, and everybody believes you. You had the engine out.
Yes.
But you didn't do. You really just cleaned it up.
We didn't rebuild it. No, it was fine. So we just removed it so that we could really detail all the accessory, refinish all the accessories and put it all back together to where it was new again.
And you could sneak that out, have to pull all this out, you can sneak it out with the hood still on and everything?
Oh, I can't remember if we pulled, I think we dropped it out the bottom.
Oh, no kidding. Right, yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, because it's a front wheel drive car.
Oh, that's right, it is. That's the other thing about this.
Yes.
It's a front wheel, because you look in there's no drive shaft tunnel on the floor.
Correct.
Because that's right, they adopted the...
true 6-passenger.
Yeah, it is a true 6. They adopted the Tornado Eldo platform for this. And Seville went from the first generation as a rear-wheel drive to the second generation as a front-wheel drive car. That's right. Well, I really enjoyed the Mark 7, but I enjoyed that every day. So let's take this out.
Let's cruise it around.
All right. You know, I sit a lot higher in this car than I did in the Mark 7. The Mark 7 was sort of a lowrider, and I will say that this doesn't feel like as heavy a car, which I'm kind of surprised at. But I tell you, it drives just completely differently from that Mark 7.
That Mark 7 airbag suspension, even though everything's nice and smooth and quiet, and I'm just kind of jostling around a whole lot more in this car. The Mark 7, that car just feels so, it's planted, but it feels like it's 10,000 pounds.
It does.
Because no matter what you come across on the roadway,
it takes care of it.
It just devours it.
Yep.
With that airbag suspension, and then this more conventional suspension, it does feel like a lighter car just because it doesn't have that secret sauce that the Mark 7 has.
These cars went through all sorts of engine iterations, starting out with Caddy V8 and a diesel. Actually, this started with a diesel, right?
Well, optional, yes.
Yes.
And then they did that 6.4. 864.
That was a disaster.
Disaster in 1981. Then they were putting Buick V6s in them. And,
for a year, which was amazing.
And then I think for the last 2 years, you could get this 4.2 liter, the 4200. It's a very small V8, and the horsepower is very low. I think it's 135 or 136, somewhere in that realm. I've heard Sally say that it struggled to even make it up the interstate ramps.
now that's struggling. You know, just like nothing looked like the Mark 7 when it came out, definitely nothing looked like this. That Bustleback.
The Bustleback. I was not a fan, and like everything else, now I get it. We were coming out of the 1970s styling where everything that was ever done that was daring and dare to be different, like the boat tail Riviera and things of that nature, all got shot down.
That's right.
All got shot down by the buying public. And what sold in the 70s
boring stuff.
Was boring, really square, shoebox
boring
styling stuff. And so all of a sudden, out of nowhere, when we've been programmed that boring is good, Cadillac comes out with this Bustleback Seville, and again, it really hit me out of left field where I was like, oh, I don't know about that. You know, I felt bad because I was worried that I hurt Sally's feelings because the first
nice car.
I was riding, we were somewhere in Detroit. I was in the back seat of the car, Dad was driving, and Sally spies a Seville on the road. Oh, there's a Seville. Oh, I want one of those so bad. And I'm in the back seat, and I chime up, you know, the little jerk young guy. You want one of those hideous things? Yeah. Sally, tell me you're kidding. Tell me you're kidding. No, I really love those. I really want one. Oh.
So then after you took your foot out of your mouth.
I just shut my mouth from that point forward.
It is a style that now, because just like with the Mark 7, you don't see them. If you do see them, they're completely ratted out.
Yes.
But if you see one like this, you know, that's an interesting car.
It has withstood the test of time, you know?
Yeah.
It's gone from controversial.
Or maybe time finally caught up with
it.
Yes.
And it's funny what a whole bunch of plastic wood grain can do to an interior, because I remember when I was a kid, you know, anytime I would jump into a friend's car to get, driven to basketball practice or something like that, if parents had a luxury car with a whole lot of wood trim in it, oh, wow.
Look at that over there.
Wow. These people are rich. They've got the plastic wood grain in their interior.
Genuine simulated wood grain. Well, you know, and when it's at a show, how do people react to it? Because, I mean, I think a lot of people missed this car, never saw it. whatever reason.
I think they react to it the same way that I react to cars that I see at shows that you don't normally see detailed and restored to this level. It always makes me smile, and then it goes, wow, how did he do that?
Yeah.
Where did he find, the fresh, correct decals, and where did he find this, and how did he restore that? Because I'm in the restoration parts business, and I know when there's a car in front of me for which nothing is reproduced.
Exactly.
Absolutely is nothing reproduced. So I know what a challenge it is to make it look new again. You've got to be on your computer, you've got to be researching part numbers, you've got to be finding new old stock parts, for which we found plenty of new old stock parts for when we did this, mostly under the hood. All of the exterior trim and all the chrome on this car is all the original stuff. Like I said, it's the life of a garage kept car that was kept clean and taken care of by a loving owner.
Not a bad life.
Yeah.